All right, a happy Tuesday. We had a little bit of an elimination Monday, and we are going to do some videos. We're going to start with a New Orleans Pelicans offseason video. Hopefully everyone is doing great. You can read all about New Orleans on ESPN.com. We've got their article up there with all the other teams that have been eliminated. So we've got 3 first-round casualties, all in the Western Conference. The Pelicans, Lakers, and Phoenix Suns. New Orleans enters the offseason really at a kind of a crossroads here, because we had thought that this was going to be the year when we were going to see a healthy roster come playoff time. You saw a little bit of a glimpse of that in the play-in game loss to Lakers. Certainly Brandon Ingram was not himself coming back from that injury, and then Zion gets injured. Played the most games in his career. And then we don't see him in the postseason, and New Orleans is basically kind of a shell of themselves that we saw from them winning 49 games, tied for the second most in franchise history. But 49 games in the Western Conference gets you the number 8 seed in the playoffs. That's the unfortunate business of being in the Western Conference here. Where the Pelicans go this offseason, it certainly starts with the draft. They've got a Lakers pick, and they've got their own pick. The Lakers pick right now is projected to be at number 17. New Orleans has until June 1st to defer. I would say it is highly, highly, highly likely that New Orleans will defer to next year. First of all, it's a stronger draft in 2025. Second of all, although LeBron is still playing at an all-NBA level, it's another year of wear and tear on LeBron, and who knows where direction this Lakers roster goes. And you would rather roll the dice with having an unprotected first in 2025. So what does that mean? They would then have their own first, which is the 21st pick in the draft. That is actually Milwaukee's first, but because of the pick swap from the Drew Holiday trade all the way back in, was that 2020? The Pelicans are swapping the 23rd pick for the 21st pick. Your free agents. This is where it gets interesting. Najee Marshall, who certainly had some good moments in Game 4. Jonas Valanciunas, who is your starting center. Jose Alvarado, who's got a team option. I would expect his team option to get picked up. He can come back on a really inexpensive contract, and if they want to work out an extension, they can go out and do that. And then certainly Cody Zeller, who we really did not see, at least in the playoffs here. I think where New Orleans is, certainly I guess we call it the big 3 with Zion, Ingram, and CJ McCollum here. Minus 3.2 net rating with all 3 on the courts. 111.2 offensive efficiency. That would rank lower than the 24th place Toronto Raptors here. So how do you evaluate those 3? But you don't get them in a full dose of playoffs together. Not the first time. It's not the first time, and I don't know if it's going to be the last time. And that leads you to, certainly with Zion. Listen, we're going to, as great as he is when he's on the court, this is going to be a year-to-year, game-to-game type basis as far as where he is from an availability standpoint. We did the video before regarding the bells and whistles with this contract. I do not see Zion Williamson not on this roster moving forward here. He's too good of a player, even though you basically have a get-out-of-jail-free card for years 3, 4, and 5 here. So let's put that to bed there. 14 and 15 in clutch games, ranked in the bottom 7 in offensive and net efficiency in clutch. Now, here's the thing. Keeping your core together. That means Zion, CJ McCollum, who's got a couple of years left, and then Brandon Ingram, who will enter the last year of his contract, is eligible to sign a 4-year, $208 million max extension starting in July. Okay, CJ's owed $64 million. As I said, Zion's got $163 million. You've got Valanciunas that you need to address. If you keep your 2 picks, which, as I said, is going to be unlikely. You're at $161 million in salary. You have luxury taxes 171, and I think it's interesting with the luxury tax. And we're basically going to start shifting the mindset when it comes to luxury tax. Certainly starting in 2025-26, because it's not a big deal to be in the. Yes, you'll miss the tax distribution, but starting next year, which is 25-26, the luxury tax penalties for the first 2 brackets get significantly lower. So instead of paying $1.50 for $1, it's $1 for $1. It's when you get into that, basically that 3rd tier, where it gets expensive here. So I wouldn't pay much attention. I know New Orleans has not ever paid the tax, but that doesn't bother me as much as certainly where these apron rules are. So we talked about the luxury tax, certainly where they are. They'll get some flexibility if they give back that, if they defer that pick. So you'll have probably $13-14 million below the luxury tax. The big question is going to be certainly what do you do with Valanciunas, right? Who was your center? How do you replace him if he's not on the roster? Okay, you would basically have the 12.9 part of the $12.9 million non-tax mid-level. Valanciunas is one of 3 centers, and this is not a good center crop. Nick Claxton, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Valanciunas are probably the 3 top centers, but does that mean he's going to get a $20 million contract? I don't think so. I think he's probably a $13 to $15 million guy. As we've seen, centers rarely get paid in free agency. Certainly a center that's got a bunch of wear and tear on his body. His rebounds have come down a little bit here. New Orleans 23rd in field goal percentage allowed at the rim. So can you get a shot blocking center in free agency or the draft? So keep an eye on what happens with Valanciunas. Brandon Ingram is going to be interesting. And I wrote about it. I said, when you have a player that's 26 years old and averaged 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in the past 5 seasons, it is usually a no-brainer that you are going to write him a 4-year, $208 million max extension. However, and I know he came back from the injury, and you give him credit for doing so, but he was ineffective, certainly in that Laker game when he got benched. He was ineffective this whole series against Oklahoma City. Lou Dort basically put him in a straitjacket. He was a no-show for Game 4. How does the injury come into play? Are you comfortable paying him $50 million a year when he has his games played 55, 45, and 64 last 3 seasons. He's missed 154 games since 2016-17. That's going to be, and I know there's a lot of Brandon Ingram fans out there, and I see it on Twitter, which is like he's got his own fan club and stuff. But that's going to be the $1 million decision as far as what you do. And if you don't extend him, then you're going to have to trade him. I mean, that is the reality of the situation. If Brandon Ingram does not get an extension this summer, you are going to have to trade him because you're not walking into the season. Or you could trade him at closer to the deadline, but you're basically going to have turmoil come training camp. He will get paid next year. That is the reality of it. Big wings get paid in free agency. Will he get max money? I don't know. We'll see after another year, but he will get paid. The extension rules are changing come this offseason, where now you can extend and trade for 120%, so his number will be near max. You can add more years than past, so he could actually get traded and then extend with his current club instead of playing out the year. We mentioned Valanciunas. Keep an eye on what happens with Ingram. I think the interesting thing as far as from an extension standpoint, besides Ingram, is Trey Murphy. 14.7 points, 38% on 3. Him and Herb Jones together are really, really good on the court. What is a number for him? It's going to be probably north of $20 million. Are you comfortable paying $22-23 million to a sixth man? What happens? Can you move off Ingram? Maybe you get a more traditional point guard, slide maybe CJ to the 2. Do you put Zion at 5? Do you have Herb and Trey? So there's a lot of different mechanics that New Orleans can go into in this offseason here. I mentioned Alvarado. He's outplayed that $6.9 million contract he signed in 2022. Plus rating of 17.5 per 100. Woo! Goodness gracious. So he's got a $2 million team option. He is eligible to get extended. I would be stunned if his option is declined and they make him a restricted free agent. Murphy's going to be interesting. As we've always said, rookie extensions, unless you're a max guy, tend to get played out until October 21st, the last day to sign an extension here. So keep an eye on what happens with Valanciunas, what happens with Ingram, what happens with Murphy, what happens in trade dialogue, because I think this is going to be one of the most active off seasons I think we're going to see. There's a lot of teams that are sitting at I call it the pissed off table. Certainly you've got the Lakers there, you've got Golden State there, you've got Phoenix there. I think New Orleans is probably at the kids' table. You might have the Clippers there soon. You're going to have Milwaukee probably soon. I think there's going to be a lot of action just because it's not a great free agent class. I think there's so many teams in the apron that are going to be looking to get off money. There's the teams, the in-between teams that are going to take advantage of teams that can't go out and make trades. So I would keep an eye on New Orleans being active this offseason. They were active at the trade deadline. I would expect them to be active. Team needs, certainly starting center. I think you got to get a traditional point guard. 6 tradable first over the next 7 years. They've got their own first this year. They've got that Laker pick in 2025, which when they defer likely, they have the right to swap first with Milwaukee in 26. They have an unprotected first from Milwaukee in 27. They also have a first from Milwaukee if it falls in the top 4. They've got a couple seconds available. So that all in all is the state of the union in New Orleans. A good regular season, a poor way to end it, certainly losing at home. I think that Sacramento game was like the only time they won a home game in like 11 or 12 games here. There's work to be done. It's a better step than where they were last year, losing in the play-in game to Oklahoma City. 49 wins is nothing to be ashamed about. But it all comes down to certainly health with Zion. What do you do with Brandon Ingram? Solidifying your center position, and then certainly working out an extension for Trey Murphy. We will talk soon. Try to boast at what I look like. I'm on fire. It's NBA,